Welcome back to your weekly roundup of everything that happened in Zenless Zone 0, where we will cover everything that you missed inside and outside of the game. Now, starting things off with in-game news, this is the last full week of the patch, so we are nearing the end of the patch with a smaller number of events. But that doesn't mean that there won't be any at all, because this Friday the 30th is going to be packed with a lot of new things. Firstly, on Friday will be the start of a double drop period for combat simulation stages, which will last until next Wednesday on the 4th. So this will let you get twice as many upgrade materials like EXP, skill chips, or disc EXP to help you prepare for the upcoming Angels of Delusion banners. Speaking of the Angels of Delusion though, also on Friday will be another event revolving around them called Angels of Delusion Training in Progress, where we will shake up the boring everyday life with the Angels of Delusion. At least that's what the description of the event says. Because interestingly, there was never really any teaser for this shown off when the patch was initially revealed. So I guess we don't really have an idea on what this event will be, but I can imagine since it's near the end of the patch, it's going to be a rather simple one where you just talk to the different girls each day, similar to the current Angels of Delusion and Muse that we have right now, mainly serving as an introduction to the girls themselves, training them in the sense of their idol training. Friday will also of course have our regularly scheduled Deadly Assault reset, and the bosses this time around will be the Primordial Nightmare, the new boss from this patch, the Unknown Corruption Complex, which is the OG big mecha boss, and then also the Wandering Hunter. Not only are there going to be all of these in-game events though, but because we are nearing the end of the patch, with patch 2.6 arriving around the 10th of February, just over 2 weeks away, that means that we should also be expecting a patch 2.6 live stream this coming Friday. Of course, during the live stream we can expect a full official reveal of Arya and Sinner, aka Chinatsu, but as a reminder that in 2.6, some other things to look forward to are of course news about Lycan and Harumasu's buffs in the form of the potential upgrades similar to the other agents that we have now, as well as reruns for Yishen and Yuzuha. As for what else will be announced, we will just have to wait until Friday. Of course, as always, I will also have a recap video shortly after the 2.6 live stream as well, in case you want a short recap, so keep an eye out for that. Something to keep in mind as well is that patch 2.6 will also coincide with Chinese New Year, which will be on the 17th of February. So if last year was anything to go by, we can hopefully expect a lot of cool events or freebies, maybe even both, in patch 2.6 as well. But otherwise, before we move over onto the social media side of stuff, there is one last thing left to say. If you would like to top up on some polychromes yourselves, why not try using LD Shop? Especially considering you can get top-up options cheaper through LD Shop than you would in-game, with discounts of up to nearly 22% for new users. For example, purchasing an internet membership through LD Shop costs only $3.87 compared to the $5 if you were to purchase it in-game. And topping up is really easy. All you need is your in-game user ID and your server. Once you fill those in, you can click on top up, choose your payment method, and within seconds your order is completed and you can see the rewards in-game. And yes, you can even get the double bonus for first-time top-ups. LD Shop is a trusted and authorized service that is 100% safe and legitimate. Also, if you use my link in the description when you register on LD Shop, you will also get a 5% off coupon to use. And if you spend over $80, you will also gain a VIP membership, which can earn you free internet memberships and regular coupons. Once again, you can check out the description and the pinned comment to start saving with LD Shop. Moving on to the social media side of things though, we have a couple of birthdays to celebrate, with the first being for the lady of the patch, Ye Xingwang, as well as another birthday for Sokaku too. So happy birthday to both of them, as well as anybody else watching who has a birthday in the coming week. Otherwise, as we've mentioned with the Angels of Delusion right around the corner, we've actually already gotten their EP very early. Redreaming Angel has been released on YouTube and of course on Twitter, which I will say does actually sound really good. This is a song featuring the entire faction of the Angels of Delusion though, so it is still entirely possible that we could still be getting individual character EPs as well to serve as additional promotional material for each individual character. But when you watch the music video though, of note is that in this EP, there are shots of the idols in different outfits than what we've seen them in originally. Obviously, one reasoning for this could just be that it's a stylized music video, so of course they would have different outfits. But on the other hand, this could also be a potential hint at some skins that they could be getting. Now of course, whether or not Arya and Sinner will be getting skins, and also whether or not the skins are the ones that we see in this music video, will be revealed on Friday in the 2.6 livestream. But on the topic of the Angels of Delusion though, ticket sales for their New York concert on the 21st and 22nd of March are now on sale. The link to the ticket pages will be in the linked tweet in the description below. Now moving on to our last little bit of a speculation zone here, there are two main things to talk about. The first is that according to a 2.6 beta, there have been some adjustments to certain bosses in the game. The first is for the Defiler. These of course refer to the Deadly Assault bosses by the way. But the Defiler now has its effect changed, where before, for each education stack, you would get 8% crit damage per stack. However, in this beta build, it has been changed to have 5% crit damage, but also 5% physical and 5% electric damage per stack. The other boss change is for the Thrall, where before, each stack of self-sacrifice would increase the stun multiplier of the boss by 10%. However now, in the new build, instead, each stack will reduce the defense of the Thrall by 8% per stack. So for the Defiler boss, this kind of further emphasizes exploiting the boss's physical and electrical weaknesses. So basically, the Obol squad will shine even more so than before with Seed, Soldier Ambi, and Trigger, making them have an easier time against the boss. Which sounds great, right? However, it also means that you might get slightly punished if you do not conform to the electric and physical weakness though. Similarly, as for the Thrall, this makes non-Rupture agents a little bit more viable since they can now shred through the boss's defenses more easily. But on the same hand though, existing Rupture agents can no longer really take advantage of this buff, considering that they already ignore defense as, they are Rupture agents. So now, if you want to be pessimistic here, these can sort of be considered as indirect nerfs to certain agents, or at least the viability of these agents against these specific bosses. As an example, for the Thrall, before being weak to ice, I'm sure many people would have had Yidhari be the go-to damage dealer against him. However now, after these changes, against this boss specifically, her viability has taken a bit of a hit. Likewise, maybe against the Defiler, you were doing perfectly fine using some non-electric or non-physical damage dealers, because you could enjoy a big 8% crit damage per stack. For example, maybe you used Evelyn, or maybe you used Soldier 11. However now, the viability of some of these agents are being somewhat reduced, all because you aren't using the quote-unquote correct agent in the eye of the devs. Of course, this concept is nothing new. They've always had things like this where in Shiyu defense, the buffs would always favor the newest agents very much so more than anybody else to entice you to pull for them. But the thought of them going back and retroactively changing already existing boss mechanics, which does indirectly make certain agents weaker, does feel a little bit underhanded in my opinion. Hopefully though, these changes aren't that impactful though, and everyone can still use their agents that they've been using beforehand to clear these deadly assault bosses. But these subtle changes combined with the ever fluctuating HP values that are constantly changing in the background does feel very manipulative from HOYOverse. However, moving on from deadly assault bosses, another piece of news is that earlier this month, it was discovered that in the HOYOverse account management system, certain strings were added into the code which related to Steam. For example, quote, "You will be unable to access any characters under this HOYOverse account via Steam account after unlinking," as well as, quote, "A HOYOverse account can only be unlinked from a Steam account once within 30 days, end quote. This could be hinting at a potential Steam release of HOYOverse games, including of course Zenless Zone Zero. And a Steam release could also then potentially lead to an official Steam Deck support too, making it much more convenient to play on a mobile device other than a phone. However, technically speaking, Steam support doesn't necessarily translate to Steam Deck support, but I can't imagine a reason as to why they wouldn't want people to be able to play the game on Steam Decks. Now, another thought about this is that maybe it isn't all HOYOverse games, maybe it's for only specific games, and maybe it's specifically for one of the upcoming HOYOverse games, Varsapura. Or maybe even the Honkai Nexus anime game as well. Or maybe even Petite Planet. Oh, there's actually a lot of HOYO games that they're busy developing, my goodness. But anyway, personally, I would love it if they were able to release all of their games on Switch as well, so that I would have a reason to actually use my Switch again. But either way though, the best possible scenario out of this means that we will be able to play HOYOverse games on a mobile device other than phones, which would be great. But otherwise though, thank you all for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, then liking, commenting, and subscribing would be greatly appreciated. So until next time, bye bye!